we are going to have some reflective comments coming from Anna Diaz-Rowe, who is the Roundtable Co-Chair and Dean of the Drexel University Dornlife School of Public Health. Thank you for participation in this session, and we're ready for those comments.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a great panel to end on. Thank you all for hanging in there. I think we've had a super interesting conversation all day, and I will not attempt to summarize it all, but I'll just I put together a few reflections and themes that I heard throughout the day that I'll share with you. We started out sort of articulating why we are talking about this, and I think that it's important to remember this. And I think, there's no doubt that we are at a crossroads in many ways, and that there's an opportunity that we are for rethinking the relationship between business and health. And I would go beyond that and say relationship between our economy and health, because it's not just business, it's broader than that. And this has been motivated, of course, by the pandemic, which has put sort of the collective back on the map, the fact that we're all interconnected and responsible for each other, and has put health back on the map in a different way, in a very compelling way. Also, the reckoning with the pervasive impact of structural racism and its long history in this country and in many, many other countries, and the climate crisis. So this is sort of, has put this topic, has created an opportunity for us, I think. We heard about how these two worlds of business and public health have different awareness of each other, see information in different ways, do not always share the same information, have assumptions and sometimes even stereotypes about each other in different languages, and how that is something that we need to address if we're going to communicate. And then a third big thing I think that emerged and that reemerged at the end is the fact that we really have to consider the structures and systems in which we're operating, because these things are fundamental to understand if we want to really create change. We also heard that there's a strong belief among the public that business and their jobs are fundamental drivers of their health, and that is, I think, backed up by scientific evidence quite robustly. We heard about the importance of wages, income and wages, as a fundamental driver of well-being and health, and is an area certainly in which the U.S. has been lagging. We saw that amazing figure, decoupling wages from productivity. We heard about how many aspects of jobs, of the work environment, quality, job quality, which encompasses so many different things, benefits, job security, career advancement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, control and support of work, have been shown to have very important health impacts. And there's a big literature on this, actually. So obvious connections there. And then we started to delve into a few potential options, ways forward, things we can explore. We heard about employee-owned companies, ESOPs, as one example. There are examples in other countries, too, that are a little different and might be worth exploring. About how democratic and inclusive workplaces could have important health benefits. What would those really look like? How can we evaluate the health impacts of those things? I think there's an opportunity to do that on individuals, on all over their life course, on intergenerational effects, on communities, on the communities in which those individuals live from the health perspective. We also had a little bit of debate also about the need for a new social contract that elevates the voice of workers and that, quote, puts people and the planet first. What would that really mean? What does that really mean? And what would it imply for health and health equity? It would be interesting to think about, if we took that seriously, what could that mean for health equity and for health, for population health? In the afternoon, we transitioned to talking about the role of businesses and their potential impacts on communities. We started taking the example of the pandemic and how government and businesses had to partner because they had to address the crisis that we were going through, but also some of the challenges in sustaining those partnerships after the crisis was over. We also heard about businesses creating opportunities for skill building, career advancement, and economic mobility, or businesses as sort of very deliberate, thoughtful investors in places through this anchor institutions and how that could transform health and communities as well. And I think there are also opportunities to actually measure the health impact of those things and learn from them. For other, to scale up or to expand to other places. And we ended, I think, very appropriately talking about the connection between businesses and social movements. And it was really interesting to see on some of the slides issues like protecting democracy, gun violence, transforming to net zero. I mean, these are big social issues of our time, and it was very interesting to think about how businesses could contribute to moving those big public health items, addressing those big public health issues, and some of the big questions about why businesses would want to do this. Should they do this? How would they do this? I mean, that very, very interesting and a lot to think about. So I'll just finish up with a few things that I see as opportunities. I think clearly there's opportunity in bringing together these two worlds. No question about that, and there's a lot more that we can do. I think there's a huge population health and public health literature on the impact of work and the economy on health that can be brought to bear in perhaps identifying opportunities for action. And also there's an opportunity for us to partner in evaluating health impacts and documenting, and also public health learning and population health learning about what businesses are doing and how we could help evaluate and inform those efforts from the population health perspective. I think there's also more to do in sort of broadening the way we think about the connections between business and health. We've certainly moved beyond healthcare and insurance, which is great. We've talked about work conditions and compensation. We've talked about community investment. We talked a little bit about environmental impact, perhaps not as much, but obviously that's another major way in which business connects to health through environmental impact and the health implications and health equity implications of environmental impact. And so, more to do there, I think, to sort of expand our horizon in terms of the connections that we're seeing more broadly between our economy and health. And last but not least, I think, and this was, I think, illustrated really nicely in this last session, really an opportunity to think broadly and outside the box about the levers that we have to improve population health. And this goes back to this systems thinking, because if we are really going to address the big health problems that we have, we really need to think systemically and encompass certainly the things that businesses can do on their own through the motivation of their CEOs or their boards, but also think about the policies and practice and the structures and the systems that we need to put in place to make that the easy choice. In a sense, there's an analogy with the way we think about population health. It's about people doing the right thing and making the right choices, but it's also about us creating the systems, the environments, and the policies for people to do that. And I would argue that that's the case for businesses as well, that we need to do both things. We need to address the policy, the systemic constraints, as well as the voluntaristic, very well-intentioned and very important individual initiatives. So lots to do. I think lots to learn from other countries too. I wish we had had more time to talk about what other countries might be doing. That might be a topic for other panels. So I'll end on that. Those are my thoughts. It was a really fascinating day. I want to thank all our distinguished moderators and panelists, the planning committee, the staff, especially Alina Basu, who has done so much to keep all this going, juggling many things. Thank you to all of you who joined here in person as well as via Zoom for participating and sending your questions. I know it's hard to hang in there on a long Zoom day. The workshop video will be posted on the web page within a week, I believe. Everyone who registered will also receive a link to evaluate the workshop. So thank you so much, and have a good night. And I'm from Argentina. Argentina just won 3-0 against, so I can't resist mentioning that. So I'm very happy about that too. So thank you so much for joining us.